my mom had been crying at family gatherings about how unfairly I was treating her. Each time, I calmly explained that there were very good reasons for my decision, but I didn't want to drag them into my personal business. As if things couldn't get worse, Emma came home from school one day asking me, "Mommy, who is Jack?" Lily at school says her daddy knows him, and that I might be related to his kids. My blood ran cold. I sat my daughter down and gently explained that sometimes people get confused about family connections, and that Lily was mistaken. I asked her not to worry about it, but inside I was furious. My mother had clearly been talking to her church friends whose children attended my daughter's school. That evening I called the school and spoke with the principal. I didn't share all the details, but explained that there was a family situation that was causing confusion for my daughter, and asked if the teachers could be mindful of any uncomfortable conversations that might come up. The principal was understanding and promised to keep an eye on things. A week later, packages started arriving at our house. Baby clothes for the new baby, cards begging for forgiveness, and the worst one, a framed photo of Jack and his children. I recognized my daughter's face was edited onto the image, and I felt furious. I returned each one to my mother. It was clear she was still pushing her sick fantasy that Jack was part of our family. I called a lawyer that same day. I didn't want to press charges yet, but I needed to start documenting everything in case things escalated further. The lawyer suggested keeping a detailed log of all contact attempts and advised me on how to properly store evidence. A week later, I received a text from my cousin Riley saying, "Just wanted to warn you Aunt Susan, my mom, is talking about going to family court for grandparent visitation rights. She's been meeting with a lawyer." This was the final straw. I called my lawyer immediately and explained the situation. She advised me to gather all my documentation and file for a restraining order before my mother could file for visitation. Over the next week, I collected everything. The court records from Jack's case showing his guilty plea, written statements from our babysitter Quinn. I also wrote a detailed timeline of events going back years. The court date arrived faster than I expected. At 8 months pregnant, I waddled into the courtroom feeling nervous but determined. My mother was already there, tissues in hand, playing the role of the heartbroken grandmother. When her turn came to speak, she painted a picture of a loving grandmother cruelly cut off from her grandchild for no reason. She claimed I was unstable and made up stories about Jack. She even suggested that my pregnancy hormones were making me irrational. Then it was my turn. I stayed calm and methodical, presenting my evidence chronologically. I explained Jack's assault, the court case, and my mother's years of denial. I showed the altered photo, the statements from witnesses, and the documentation of her attempts to contact me despite my clear boundaries. As I spoke, I watched my mother's face change. Her story was crumbling under the weight of evidence and truth. The judge listened carefully, asking occasional questions to clarify details. When I finished, the judge took a moment to review all the documents. The courtroom was silent except for the occasional shuffle of papers. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Finally, the judge looked up. "Mrs. Bennett," she addressed my mother, "I find the evidence presented by your daughter to be both compelling and disturbing. Not only did you fail to protect your child from her abuser, but you actively facilitated contact between this individual and your granddaughter, in direct violation of a court order." My mother started to protest, but the judge held up her hand. "I'm not finished. Your subsequent attempts to force a relationship, including sending manipulated photographs and attempting to use other family members to pressure your daughter, demonstrate a concerning lack of boundaries and respect for her parental authority." The judge turned to me next. "Ms. Walker, I am granting your request for a restraining order. Your mother will not be permitted to contact you, your husband, or your children through any means, direct or indirect, for a period of 2 years. At that time, you may request a renewal if necessary." Relief washed over me. The judge continued, addressing my mother again. "Mrs. Bennett, I strongly suggest you seek counseling to address your inability to recognize the harm your actions have caused. Should you violate this restraining order, you will face serious legal consequences." My mother burst into tears, but they weren't the calculated sobs